He taught me how to grow vegetables, farm, maintain the property and look after the land, care for the animals, and hunt, and pushed me to get an education. I was happiest when he and I were working the land together. During all that time out on the land, working on one project or another, he told me of his life and what he had done to his family. He didn't make excuses. Didn't try to reason away his behavior. He told me of all the hurt and pain he caused. When I asked why he didn't try reconciling with his children, he said they can't forget what he put them through. He understood that and accepted it. I was 26 when he died. I called my dad to let him know. I had to tell him who I was. He didn't stay on the line long. Told me to take care of the funeral, then hung up. Knowing what I knew of his childhood, I didn't blame him, but he didn't even ask how I was. The resentment I already had for him grew. After the funeral, a young woman introduced herself to me at the wake. She was my cousin. I knew my dad had siblings, but that's all I knew. I had never met them, didn't know anything about them. So I didn't call any of them to let them know about my grandfather. I asked how she knew, and she told me my dad had called her mom. She spent a few days in town after the funeral, and we kept in touch after. We became and still are really close. A couple of years later, when she said she was moving into town, I gave her an acre of land. She, her husband, and their kids still live there today. My grandfather left me everything. None of my dad and his siblings contested the will. My cousin told me her mom didn't want anything, not 1 cent from her father. I guess the rest of them felt that way because neither I nor my lawyer ever heard anything from them. Until last week, my dad called me. His daughter needs a new start. Apparently, she wants to move my way to help with my businesses. I have a few small businesses I run off my property. A working farm where people can stay for a few days to experience farm life. I have a few money-making ventures. Now my half-sister, whom I'd met just one time before I was shipped off to my grandfather, all of a sudden wants to help me. I have all the help I need. I don't need hers. I told my dad I would think about it. He's been sending me texts every day, several times a day, asking me about the property and the businesses, suggesting roles his daughter could fill. Telling me that the family looks out for each other and sticks together. Telling me my grandfather owes him. Telling me what land I should give his daughter to set her up, and what land would be best for her and her husband when they visit. Whenever I see Dad pop up on my screen, I want to smash my phone. My anger and resentment are directed at my dad, not his daughter, but I still don't want her here. She's a stranger to me. All my grandfather left me is mine now, and I don't owe any of them anything. My cousin and her husband are on my side and say if it were up to them, they would tell my dad and his daughter to get lost because they have never made an effort to be family with me or even call to say hi. I know they're right. What they say is true. Update. I asked a close friend, a local cop, if he could find out if my dad still lived in the same place. Then I asked how to go about getting a trespass order. That was pretty simple. I left the police station with one in my hand and my dad's address. I then asked another close friend if he would accompany me to my dad's house. Because as far as I knew, that was where my half-sister lived. We set off to see my half-sister. It took us about 10 hours to drive there. I decided to drive instead of fly because I needed that time to order my thoughts. We showed up unannounced. We could hear a woman screaming inside from the curbside. She was not screaming like she was in trouble. She was screaming at someone. My friend told me to pull my phone out and start recording. I'm glad he thought of that.
Now you can watch the second part by pressing share and more.